Remember, the 5th of November, gunpowder treason and plot, for I see no reason why gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. Welcome to Histories Uncharted on our very special episode releasing on November 5th, and today we will be discussing the Gunpowder Plot, if you hadn't realized. I am your host, Shanna, and here with me, as always, is my amazing co-host, Cecilia.
Greetings, listeners.
And, the Gunpowder Plot. Do you, as an American, do you know anything about it?
So I have a kiddo that lives in New Zealand, and they are celebrators of Guy Fawkes Day.
Guy Fawkes.
So remember the 5th of November. I know a little bit about it, but I really do not know much about it or why it even happened. I know there was this guy, he wanted to blow up Parliament. And that's
and that's about it.
And that's about all that I know. I don't really understand why this guy wanted to do it.
Was he successful? Like, do Americans think that he is successful or not?
I would assume has his own day.
He does, yeah.
I guess I really know nothing. I am just a silly American who knows not much.
That's perfectly fine, because that's where we all start out, and that is the whole purpose of Histories Uncharted, is to share really fun, cool stories in a really fun, cool way. What is fun is that it happened on a Tuesday in 1606 on November 5th, and this year is Tuesday, November 5th. So I just thought that was very, it aligned, all of the
serendipitous moment.
Yeah, so I was like, that's it. We have to do it on Tuesday, and we're going to release it on Tuesday, November 5th. So there we go, full circle around, and now we're going to learn some fun things that a lot of people already know about. In England and New Zealand and stuff like that. So hopefully we teach you guys some stuff.
I'm ready to learn some things.
As always, plots and treasons don't just happen out of nowhere. So there's always a lot of build-up and backstory and reasons that these people have reached their limits and are causing this treason. Need this big change. Something has happened, right?
Absolutely. So you're going to paint the picture
very quickly.
Us.
Yeah, very
cool.
briefly. I'm going to do a real quick hit it and crit it of what is going on. And by real quick, I think only 2 pages. All right.
Only.
Two and a half pages of real quick setting the stage.
Okay, so I've got to say, a big part, we talk about this sometimes, a big part of why we do this podcast is literally that we would sit and just download life and giggle and laugh, and it would bring up some weird, obscure historical reference that you would tell me about that I would not get. And then you were like, wait. Okay, so first I've got to explain this. And we would literally sit and chit-chat for hours because I would get these, quick data dumps of this historical moment in life so that I could understand this one sentence that she would say to me.
It's so true.
Literally my favorite.
But you have to know why, because these things just don't happen. You just don't, I'm gonna take down the king and blow up Parliament. This doesn't just happen overnight.
Absolutely.
This particular one, so what, it happens in 1606. The story I am starting is in 1517, so it's only 100 years.
Only 100 years.
Only 100 years.
But we do have to remember that 100 years is literally probably 10 years in our time. Just with how things would move on and evolve very quickly. History, they didn't have mass communications. People weren't.
Oh, you mean our years of 10, how we develop our history is a lot of, in 10 years could be compacted into their 100.
Correct.
We live fuller lives. I hope you guys kept up with that. There was a lot of hand motions that you guys weren't following.
My hand, Taka. Sorry.
I was listening to one of our old episodes, and we did something, I think it was spooky, and you did spooky fingers, and I was like, sweetheart, they can't see you. but it's cute.
I know, guys, but it's still happening.
Yeah, we talk a lot with our hands. Okay, real quick, hit it and quit it. History lesson in the Reformation. Some of you may have heard of this. You might know about it. Martin Luther, these 95 Theses. These are words that people have heard, and they're just like, I kind of know about it, but I kind of don't know all about it.
Right.
Right. So in 1517, this dude, Martin Luther, I'm just going to say, like with air quotes, posts these 95 Theses on a church door. And this really is all of the different ways that he says the Catholic Church is corrupt. Okay. At this point, it is very corrupt. They are selling indulgences. Go look that up. It's super fun. We're going to have a whole episode on the Reformation. It's really interesting. But because he does this, he's like, these are the 95 ways I feel the church is corrupt. This opens this door to religious debate and then this split of the church and opens the way to the creation of Protestantism. Right? Protestant, the Protestant church. This name was actually not coined until 1529 when these 6 princes got together. They wanted to support the spread of this faith, and they wrote the letters of protestation because they wanted to protest against the Catholic Church. Okay, so now the Protestants are in the protestation against the Catholic Church. That is literally its origin and its creation.
Saying the Catholic Church is corrupt. We want to split
and make a more righteous, morally not corrupt,
right? This
version
quote
of
unquote
the church,
non-corrupt version.
Yes, that was their goal. These are the things that how we're going to be better than them. Okay. So the stage is already set that there's this religious tension and a starting of these new ways of thinking. So, in 1533, King Henry VIII of England splits England from the church in Rome, supporting the new religion of the Protestants. A lot of people think that he created Protestantism. He did not. Okay, he just used this religion as a means to an end. Basically. Okay. Everyone says that it's because he wants to marry this hot chick, Anne Boleyn, right? And the church, Catholic Church, won't give him a divorce.
Yep.
That's the story, right? That everyone knows. You won't give me a divorce. I'm going to go split from you, and the Protestant Church will allow me to have a divorce. This is very convenient.
And marry.
And marry Anne Boleyn. Correct. So, really, a side effect of this, and what's also going on, is that the church is really, really powerful in Europe and in England at this time. They are very, very wealthy. There is no state oversight of the church. Right now, the church is actually...
The Catholic
Church.
Catholic Church, okay.
Before
very
the Reformation.
Rich, very powerful. Before the Reformation.
Before the Reformation. The state doesn't always have any power over the church. And that makes the king feel pissy. No one should have more power than the king.
Vibes,
right?
I guess.
Yes.
I don't know. Henry was very full of himself.
They all are. You have to be king.
You have to.
You have to. So he decides to break away, get rid of the Catholic Church. He now goes and closes all of the churches, all of the convents, and he gets to take all that money, all that wealth, all that income, all of a sudden instead of church income, it is state revenue.
Yeah.
Okay. So this makes him very, very wealthy. And then it's also fun to go around persecuting wealthy Catholic nobles. Right? Remember?
Yes.
We talked about heresy in one of our episodes.
Yes. It was, you received very special tortures for heresy, especially if you were a dude. Calling you out, Mike, with the crocodile shears.
He's going to enjoy that. Hi, Mike. Just for you. So if a Catholic noble person says, I don't agree with what you're doing, I can say that you are now doing heresy and treason against the Protestant throne, And you could be imprisoned, tortured, killed, exiled. There's various things that they'll do and confiscate your wealth.
My favorite one was the shaking him down
To see
for
if they
their
would
wealth, to see if they would crack
confess.
and confess to it so that you could take all of their wealth.
I think that was only in France. It was only in one area, and this is England.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we like to travel around. So this particular Gunpowder Plot is only the English Reformation in England.
Your knowledge of executions really comes in handy.
Yeah. All right. So here we have, right? Henry has split from the church. He's taken back all this money from the Catholics. He started Protestantism in the Church of England. Henry then dies. His daughter, with Catherine of Aragon, his first wife, we're going to do a whole nother podcast with that. Don't worry about it.
She's fun.
But the daughter's name is Mary. Mm-hmm. Mary takes the throne because she is the oldest heir, full-born heir,
Right. He got a lot of girls.
He did. A lot of wives.
Henry VIII. Lots of girls in his life.
Yeah. So Mary takes the throne, and she's super Catholic, like her mom, Catherine of Aragon. So she starts massacring and prosecuting Protestants, the people that just started this religion, right? You go from Catholic and then they kill you. Now you're Protestant and they kill you. She is deposed because they do not appreciate this. And they put the daughter of Henry and Anne Boleyn. Her name is Elizabeth, and she is super Protestant like her mom, Anne Boleyn. So,
all right.
Yeah, so Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen, is crowned queen November 17th, 1558. She's very Protestant. Mm-hmm. All right. So at this point, the Reformation is officially over. The reforming from Catholic to Protestant is done. The new religion is Protestant. It is official. Okay? She says Catholics are now required to swear an oath of allegiance to the crown before the church.
Oh.
The king is higher in the pecking order than God.
Wow. That's a big statement.
It's a big statement, especially since it's not a king right now, is it?
No, it's a queen.
It's a queen. So all of these rich Catholic men have to bow and swear a vow of allegiance that the Queen Elizabeth is more powerful than God. And the church of, the Protestant church is there.
Wow. Again, Hollywood glitz and glamour of Elizabeth I, I don't know, they don't really delve into the fact that she had to maintain that by making sure she was so incredibly severe.
She had a very, very strict, severe is a good word, rule. She did a lot of things. She did a lot of exploring. Everyone loves her because she's a woman and, all of these things. She's a fascinating person and her life is amazing, but she was a person of her times and she was brutal. Mm-hmm. Just like the rest of them. Just because she was a woman doesn't mean she wasn't brutal. Absolutely. And so if you would not swear this allegiance, you were killed or punished severely.
Yeah.
All right, so she started this really cool thing called recusancy. Okay, this is going to come up a lot. Recusancy.
All right.
This means that you are going to remain Catholic, you're going to remain loyal to the Catholic, and you are refusing to attend church. The English Church of England, right? Mm-hmm. If you are in that boat and you're refusing to go to their church, you have to pay them a lot of money. A lot of money. And this is like a monthly fee that you are paid all the time until you stop being a Catholic and go convert. So it's a lot of money.
Okay,
there's some math further down the line.
Safety for so long.
Yeah.
Okay.
So by the time that Elizabeth dies and James I takes the throne, there's a lot of tension already between Catholics and Protestants. Elizabeth had a very long reign. She reigned from 1558 until 1603. It's almost 50 years with one woman ruling.
Yeah.
Under one method and policy and, stuff like that.
Religion and way of working.
So James I of England and Scotland takes the throne in March of 1603. So James is a fun character. He's Scottish. He's been the King of Scotland for a while now. Mm-hmm. He got the throne of Scotland from his mommy, Mary, Queen of Scots. Everyone knows about her. She's pretty famous. She married the Dauphin of France. He wasn't the king yet, but he was the prince. So Mary, Queen of Scots was super, super Catholic. So people are really excited in England that they're getting this new, first he's a man, right? That's important. And second of all, he is has Catholic mom, so maybe he will have a lot of tolerance for Catholics. And finally, we will stop having this bloody persecution against Catholics.
Okay, all right. That maybe he will have some reason.
Yeah, so everyone's kind of excited. They're like, okay, all right, let's see what he's going to. Let's see what he's going to do. What do you think? What do you think he's going to do?
You were raised one way, and you're given a throne, and it's been this way for so long.
He wasn't raised by his mom. She was in jail most of his life before she was executed by Elizabeth.
But he was raised Protestant.
Yep. So they were just hoping he would have Catholic sympathies, but he doesn't, as it turns out. Oh,
well, I mean, it makes sense that he would. Kind of sad that he didn't. Did he not have a really good relationship with his mom or something?
Well, like I said, she was in jail most of his life and then executed, so he didn't have that loving, bonding relationship with her. And then his dad got blown up, during a battle. So he wasn't really close with his parents, but I'm going to say not a lot of royals were.
Yeah, probably not.
James has a fun backstory if anyone wants to get into him. We're going to hit into him a lot with our witches of Scotland and England.
Siblings and uncles, and it was all very treacherous.
It was, because it's important to stay on top.
So he's in charge, and he's like, nah, bro, we're still Protestant.
Well, he's still Protestant, and what he says is that he's not going to persecute anyone that's going to stay quiet and stays in an outward obedience to the law. So if you continue to pay your recusancy fees and you just be a good little Catholic and stay quiet, then I won't persecute you.
Huh.
He also believes that exile is better than capital punishment, as it would be better to have both their heads and their bodies separated from the whole island as opposed to just their heads. Literally a quote. So despite this tolerance, there's some air quotes there, he really had no intention of ending the persecution of Catholics completely, and very early in his reign, plots began to be implemented. All right. So again, he was put on the throne in March of 1603.
Okay. And his official stance is like, be what you want. I wish you would just go somewhere else, though.
Go somewhere else, convert, pay your fines, and be quiet.
Cool beans.
Anything other than those, then I'm going to have to do my kingly duty and cut your head off.
Right. But he's not going to stop people who are out there.
No, you can exist as a Catholic, but you just have to pay the recusancies. Okay. And don't, say you're a Catholic outside.
Fair.
It's not okay.
It's not cool for you to, It's the don't ask, don't tell.
Oh,
that's really rough.
Worst policy. Yes, it very much was.
It's a terrible policy.
Yeah.
It's a terrible, terrible policy, James.
A lot of people thought that. So very early in his reign, by June 24th of 1603, right? Was that 3 months?
Yeah, 3 months into his reign.
We come up with the Bye plot, which is BYE, or the treason of the priests. I found that in a really deep source, because that's what not a lot of people call it. It's always the Bye plot, but I found treason of the priests. I thought that was fun, because they're actually punished much harsher than everyone else, because they are the priests as opposed to just normal people. Okay, well anyway, these priests, William Watson and William Clerk, the two Williams, the William priests.
The Wills.
The Wills. So they're the sweetest. They are the least horrible plot. Okay, some of these plots get a little, cray-cray. But their plot is, they just want to kidnap James and hold him in the Tower of London, which was a prison and a tower of security at that time, until he agreed to be more tolerant towards Catholics.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
All right. But at the exact same time, the main plot, because this one is bigger than just a couple priests saying, maybe you can come with us and maybe you'll stop being so mean, sir. But the main plot in July, this involved removing James and his entire family and supplanting him with a whole nother human, which was this woman called Arabella Stewart. She was also someone that was considered to be a successor to Elizabeth I instead of James. Like, it wasn't just always going to be James. There was always people that could have been, right. And James just went out. So she was the one that could have been, but they didn't want another woman. You know what I mean? So James won. So they were going to replace James with this chick, this Stewart chick. But everything fell apart, and everyone in both plots were arrested by July, and all of them were tried in the fall of 1603. So James has all of these people in all these different plots, all wanting to kill him, or at least remove him. And he doesn't want to seem like a tyrant, so he only executes one dude from the main plot, and he pardons the rest. But wills them on the other hands, because priests can't.
Oh, yeah, that's
the treasons of the priests. They were very bloodily handled and then executed.
Oh.
James then pitches a fit and says, officially, Catholics have to leave, convert, or start paying up these recusancy fines.
I mean, they're plotting to kidnap them and lock them in a tower.
Well, they're tired of being killed.
Torture them or something. You know, it's not like they were going to do anything. They just wanted
the priests
him
in particular were not.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think because they were priests, they were punished the harsher.
Right. But, I mean, coming in with a whole, we're going to kick you off the throne and place a new person on the throne.
That's the other plot. That's the main plot.
That, I mean.
More, you know?
I would have been more harsh with that, I guess.
He only kills one of them and then
out.
Releases the rest of them into the wild with all of their revolutionary ideas.
All right.
So, James is on the throne, and he decides to end these generation-long conflict between Scotland and England, and he's the perfect person to do this. So he's like, let's merge Scotland and England and make it one powerful country. He does this by appointing very high-ranking English positions to Scottish lords. Oh, the English hate this. Scotland has always been inferior. Then he lets these Scottish lords go collect the recusancy fines. Okay? That may not sound like a big deal, but think about it.
No, that's a big deal.
Yeah, these Protestant Scottish men, upstart men, are coming to your house to take your recusancy fines.
Yowza.
Yeah, so they don't appreciate this.
I could see why the Catholic English people are,
not appreciating this.
They don't appreciate it. This is,
So just to give you an idea of what we're looking at here, in 1605, 5,560 people were reported to be convicted of recusancy, of whom 112 were landowners. All right, so the Catholic rich had to pay £20 a month. This is in what? 1605. I'm not doing the math for that, but that is thousands of dollars a month. That is a lot of money for these people to pay.
That's insane.
For middle class people, they had to pay 2/3 of their annual rental income. And then people lower than that were a shilling a week. So when James came to power, almost $5,000 a year was funneling into the state treasury from recusancy fines. That doesn't sound like a lot, but it is the equivalent of almost $12 million in 2020.
And that's every year.
Every year.
And you're shaking that from the everyday people.
The rich all the way down. Every
single Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's some pretty harsh vibes.
Yeah.
You know, and your religion is your religion. Like, and you're literally, you're paying to have to practice. I mean, that's a little absurd.
All right. So there's...
absurd. At least we're not massacring these people but we're literally...
We are, because if
You're
you don't,
guaranteeing that this is what's going to happen.
because if you don't pay this money, that is when we do arrest you.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then you're tortured. And then I kill you, and then I just take your entire property.
Yeah.
And I either exile your family or I kill them as well for being heretics.
I was just going to say, because when you're not paying, it's heresy. Yeah.
When you are paying, it's recusancy, and if you're not paying, it's heresy. Which is also now treason.
Yeah. Then you look at the economic impacts that it's having on middle class.
Oh,
especially that. You know, like I get the church and we're trying to bleed them dry. That makes sense to me. But this is, they're going for the everyday people.
That is why the main population converted to Protestantism, because it was cost effective in their everyday lives. It's still God, it's still this church, it's still these morals and these religions. Like, it's still a Christian. There are some fundamental things that are different from the Catholic. I'm not saying that they're the exact same, but I'm just saying it as a transition from a basic villager in 1603. Like, it,
you're like, that James guy is a dick. But whatever, I guess I can mutter my prayers under my breath.
So that's your foundation. That's where we're at in 1603. That's where these men are at that are done.
I feel it.
All right. So the Gunpowder Plot begins to form in their minds. The basic plot is simple. They want to reestablish Catholicism in England by blowing up the House of Lords, killing the king and all that support him during the state opening of the Parliament. They would then put his young daughter Elizabeth on the throne with one of them as her regent and in control of the country. That is your Gunpowder Plot. Dun, dun, dun.
That's exciting. All right. So
this is what they wanted to do. All right, so
who are they?
Who are they? So we're going to talk about the main plotters, all right? These are not the only dudes involved. This was a big plot. I'm not going to go into all of the names, but these are just the main dudes.
Okay.
All right. Robert Catesby. He is the leader of the pack. Oh, okay. He was a man of ancient, historic, and distinguished lineage. He was the inspiration behind the plot. He was often described by contemporaries as a good-looking man, about 6 feet tall, athletic, and a good swordsman. Along with several other conspirators, he took part in the Essex Rebellion in 1601, during which he was actually wounded and captured. So Queen Elizabeth was in charge in 1601. She allowed him to escape with his life, but she did make him pay a fine of 4,000 marks, which is approximately $6 million today.
Oh.
So he already has a record of treason and paying for treason in the millions with the previous monarch.
Yowza.
Okay. Because of this, you know, he had to sell some of his estates, and he wasn't not a lord, but he was less rich. So that's Robert.
All right, Robert.
He's the main guy. And then we have Thomas Winter. He is main guy number 2. He was a competent scholar. He was able to speak several different languages, and he also fought with the English army. So his uncle was executed for being a Catholic priest in 1586. Winter was about the age of 15 around then, and this was a pivotal point in his forming of his life, and he converted to Catholicism at that point and became a Catholic supporter. Guy Fawkes, everyone has heard about him. This is even what Guy Fawkes Day is named after. He was a devout Catholic. In 1591, he actually fought with the Spanish against the Dutch Republic as a Catholic. In 1603, he was part of a group of people that went to Spain to seek support for a Catholic rebellion. Like, hey, help fund us, give us some money. You're Catholic. We want to be Catholic, you know.
Right.
Oh, it was at this time that he actually adopted the Italian version of his name, Guido, as opposed to Guy. That's when he becomes Guido Fawkes.
Oh, wow. Because we talked about it, but like what happened?
Yeah, his signature.
Chose to change it.
It was in part the rebellious spirit, and he wanted, I don't know, it made him his revolutionary name. It gave him power.
I love that for him.
Guido.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
We're all about that, man.
So John Wright, he is a devout Catholic. He is said to be one of the best swordsmen of the day. He had played with Robert Catesby during the rebellion a few years earlier. And he also hangs out with his brother a lot. His brother tags along with him, and him and his brother show up later. And then your last main character is Thomas Percy. He is a serious character. He converted to the Catholic faith. So a bunch of these are Protestants that have converted, you know? His early years, he had a tendency to rely on his sword and his courage as opposed to his wits. So
he sounds a little like Gaston to me.
I think so too. He sounded fun.
And we have to remember, like, the fashion of 1605 is, as Shanna likes to put it, very Three Musketeers, my friend. So imagine, like, flourished capes and tights and very large hats with feathers.
Plumes.
The most ridiculous Farkin mustaches you have ever
little
seen.
Goatees, and they had massive beard game.
John Malkovich.
Would be so happy.
Yeah. Golly, I can't remember what he was in, but he played King James the First in a movie once upon a time, and the frillies around the neck, and it just
and they were in those white tights and high heel shoes, and you know, it was
that's what these dudes are wearing. I've just got to throw that out. This is the fashion of the time right now. I thought that that's not what I expected these guys to look like, I guess. Wasn't expecting it.
They probably spent more time getting ready in the morning than you and I.
Correct. Those tights were a situation.
I think they had a lot of corsets and girdles and stuff at that point too.
Absolutely. Their outfits are fabulous.
If anybody wants to take the time, it's worth a quick Google. Just Google some of these names and check out some of the beard game.
Absolutely. It's very, very fancy wear that these men were walking around in their everyday life. All across Europe, it was just the fashion. So it's really good.
Well, these 5 conspirators first met together and started the Gunpowder Plot on May 20th, 1604, and they were probably at the Duck and Drake Inn. That's pretty fun. So they're in a bar.
Duck and Drake.
The Duck and Drake. Fun fact, bars and taverns were often named things like Duck and Drake because they could also be represented with an image, a picture of a duck, because most of the peasantry was illiterate and couldn't read the word duck. So you would just have a picture of a duck and they would know that that was the Duck Inn.
Absolutely. Prancing pony.
The prancing pony.
I didn't actually put that together in my brain. So, thank you for sharing that, because it went, duh. Of course that's why.
Yeah. But it is why.
Thanks for making that connection, Shannon.
Yeah. All right, so things started moving. June 9th, 1604. Percy's patron. So this is like the dude he works for. He works for the Earl of Northumberland. This boss appoints him to the band of gentlemen pensioners. All right. This is a personal bodyguard to the king, a group of bodyguards to the king. So they're starting to position themselves into places around the king. Okay. This also gave Percy a reason to need a base in London. So they rented this small property. It's called the Prince's Chamber, and this is directly across the street from the Parliament building so that they could be close. It gave them an excuse to rent a place close because he has a job there. So Fox is like, I'll go ahead and be your dude there, and he uses the pseudonym John Johnson.
John Johnson?
Yeah.
I don't know. It sounds like...
Hi, I'm John Johnson.
John Johnson. That's like his porno name, man. Like, what the heck? It was a different time. I have to remember.
Yeah. So
1604, everybody.
Yep. And so now they have a little apartment directly across the street from where they want to target. So they're positioning themselves in the King's Guard, in a location near the building. They're making moves here. And he says he's Percy's servant doing this. But as it turns out, they cannot use this as a base after they set all this up because there's a bunch of Scottish dudes there that were brought in by the king in his attempt to Scottishify England.
Okay.
So all of a sudden they're surrounded, unknowingly, they became surrounded by Scottish men loyal to the king they're trying to blow up. There's so many ironies to all of these little steps that these gentlemen went through.
So they found this perfect spot, and then it's infiltrated by the Scots.
And this is where they're going to start stockpiling and storing all of the gunpowder that they're going to use to blow up Parliament under the nose of all of these very loyal Scottish dudes. So now they can't do this. But they still...
This is beginning to sound like a Guy Ritchie film. Okay, carry on.
All right, can't use that. What they do is they go to, Robert has these other lodgings. They're on the opposite side of the bank of the Thames. Okay. So they take their gunpowder, they smuggle it into their room that they can't use, and then they secretly row it across the river each night to the other lodging, and there they begin to stockpile things for months.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
For months.
Months.
I mean, if it took them days to row it across the river.
Oh, no, it wouldn't take days. They did it each night. Each night they would load up their little boats and they would row stuff across each night and store it there. Okay, but on December 24th, 1604, another hiccup comes into their plans because Parliament is supposed to reopen in February. This is what they're planning for this entire time. They have all this gunpowder for February. But on December 24th, it is announced that they need to delay the opening of Parliament because there is a huge epidemic of plague right now.
Oh,
yeah.
Very common.
So they have to quarantine and they have to lock down. Right? So this means that instead of sitting in February, they're going to sit in October. So they announce, I'm so sorry, we're changing our opening date to October 3rd. So now the guys are like, fuck. One thing that's different about gunpowder nowadays and gunpowder in 1605 is that it didn't have a very long shelf life.
Okay.
So all these things that they're gathering are going to expire for February and not October. And now where are we going to keep holding all this stuff? Are we going to have to get more stuff? What are we going to do? That's like months away. I got to go to work. Like, now what do we do?
Now, that's a ginormous monkey wrench in the plan.
Yeah.
Well, what are they going to do?
What do they do?
I'm like almost on the verge of biting my fingies, Shanna. What are they doing?
Well, they're going to just keep plotting along with our plan. Okay. They have a really good idea since now they have some extra time. They decide to rent a storage space inside the building. Okay, that Parliament is being held. So where Parliament is being held at this time, it's called the Palace of Westminster. Okay, this isn't just one building. It is a complex and a conglomeration of buildings and that has grown and been added over times and generations, and lots of people live there. All right, this is medieval chambers, chapels, halls. It's a royal palace. Parliament's there. Courts are there. Merchants, lawyers, like shops, taverns. Like, this is a big complex.
Okay.
All right. So
That makes sense, because I was legitimately like, are you kidding me? Parliament just has a room for rent downstairs? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. So it's like this ginormous complex of like all of these functions.
Yes.
In this space.
Yes.
A tiny city.
A palace. People we don't live in those kind of lands nowadays, but like think of like a huge Disney resort with all of the different hotels and things attached, but they're separate and they have walkways through each other. I don't know. It's hard to explain. So the dude that is renting the room that is surrounded by the Scottish lords secures a storage closet in the building across the street.
Cool beans.
Okay. It's awesome. It's perfect. It is directly beneath the first floor House of Lords. It may once have been part of the palace's medieval kitchen. It was unused, it was filthy, and it was ideal for what the group planned to do.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
So, according to Fox, they start to bring in about 20 barrels of gunpowder, followed by 16 more by July. So, by July, that's like 36 barrels of gunpowder. The supply and purchase of gunpowder was, in theory, controlled by the government, but apparently it was really easy to just get it smuggled and have black market gunpowder. So, that's really safe. On July 28th, they made an announcement again that the plague had not calmed down enough. They were not comfortable enough to do the October Parliament meeting, so they are going to delay it again, this time until Tuesday, November 5th.
Okay.
All right.
That's a very ominous day.
Yes. So now it's late August.
Mm-hmm.
Fox and Winter discover that these 36 barrels of gunpowder have decayed.
Oh.
And now they have to go get more gunpowder. Like every time they turn around, there's delays, there's Scottish soldiers, there's rotting gunpowder. So now they have to go get more gunpowder.
Vibes.
Yeah.
And it's not like they can just like roll up with barrels.
Right,
every
they gotta
time this
smuggle
happens.
this
It's
in.
like this really slow process. So it makes sense that they're, they don't have a lot of time.
All right. So in October, all of the little final details are finalized. All right. Guido Fawkes, is going to remain in this little storage room. Okay. And he is going to light the fuses. And he is going to escape across the river in a small boat that is going to be waiting for him there. While he is doing this and blowing up Parliament, at the exact same time, the rest of the group is going to revolt in the Midlands. This is where the king's daughter Elizabeth is. They're going to capture her, and they're going to try to put her onto the throne with one of them in charge. All right?
I'm sorry. I thought that they knew this Elizabeth chick.
No.
But no, they're going to kidnap
She's a
dead
kid.
king's daughter.
She's a child.
They're going to kidnap her.
Because she's next in line. She's a pawn.
And then put her on the throne.
As a puppet. With them in charge. As regent.
I'm sorry. That kind of blew over my sweet little brain. that they were going to have to kidnap this chick to put her on the throne. I thought she was a part of this.
No.
That she was
never.
Acknowledging.
Ironically, the man that they chose to be the regent wasn't in on it either. They chose Percy's boss. Remember the Earl of Northumberland that gave him that position? He really wasn't in on any of this. He was just a friend of Percy. He thought he was helping Percy out. They chose him to be the regent, and he didn't even know it. So that comes in later. And this poor guy is punished like a mofo, and he had nothing to do with nothing. Neither did she. She was just an innocent kid. So at the same time, it's a two-prong assault.
Okay.
Fox is going to blow up the building and the king, and he's going to escape across the river. And then he's going to go back to Spain, and he's going to go see, look, now the king is dead. Now please support us. Now please help us continue with this rebellion.
Right.
And then at the same time, all the rest of the boys, Percy and Robert Catsey and all Winter and all them, are going to kidnap Elizabeth and put her on the throne.
That part of the plan just, I don't know. That's a little preposterous. I like all of it, up to the kidnapping the kid.
Well, you can't just remove the authority without putting someone else up on the throne.
Absolutely, I get it.
Nature abhors a vacuum.
That's it's just, what a thought. Stockholm syndrome. We're just going to Stockholm syndrome Elizabeth,
she's just going to go along with it, or you're going to die.
Yeah.
That's pretty much would have been her option. Go along with this or die. But they really couldn't kill her either, because then they don't have the puppet to put on the throne.
Absolutely.
So. But again, she's a child. So we are going to start our breakdown of events on the 14th of October. All right? Robert Catesby invited this dude, Francis Tresham, into the conspiracy. All right, so there's lots of guys. We're just going to try to keep up.
Okay.
Tresham is a cousin of Robert. Okay, they grew up together. They knew each other really well. He was also heir to his father's fortune, so he was a really good pick, even though his fortune was kind of depleted, but not completely gone, because he was a Catholic, so he paid a lot of recusant fines.
Okay.
You know, they have expensive tastes. And he's one of the main ones that had to foot the bill when Catesby and all of those others were involved with that pesky revolt a couple years ago, when they paid what was it, $6 million or something?
For reals.
Yeah.
Between that $6 million and needing the latest fancy cape.
All right. So we're only telling you about Tresham and him coming in and his cousin and stuff like that, because on Saturday, October 26th, Tresham's brother-in-law, this dude, Monteagle, okay? So Tresham's friend, Monteagle, he's a dude that's loyal to the king. He was throwing a party. Right. And so they're sitting there eating and they're playing, and all of a sudden the servant comes in, and he has this letter, and he hands it to Monteagle, and he says, "I got it from a stranger on the road." And Monteagle ordered it be read loud in front of the entire company. Okay?
Okay.
The letter said thus: "Lord Monteagle, I am sending you a warning. If you value your life, do not attend the upcoming Parliament meeting. Go for a trip in the country. You will be safe there. It does not say what will happen, but the most damning part and alarming sentence in it says, 'Parliament will receive a terrible blow. Burn this letter as soon as you have read it, and be careful.'" All right?
So Tresham wrote brother-in-law.
We don't know.
We don't know.
All right, so that's the thing. Okay.
But Tresham's brother-in-law is warned.
And he is a super good friend of the king. So he is a royal supporter. So Monteagle promptly goes to Whitehall, and he hands it to the Earl of Salisbury. All right, this dude informs a couple guys.
Yeah. If you see something, say something.
Yeah. But he doesn't really tell the king. He keeps it from the king. He's like, it's cool. The king is busy. He's hunting. He's not supposed to be back for a long time, for a few days. So we're just gonna deal with it here and not tell the king. This actually comes up later, because apparently over time, this dude, Cecil, the Earl of Salisbury, was apparently alerted of the main plot and the by-plot. And he never really told anybody. So they were always kind of all of these things kept happening, and you never... There's this whole interesting Salisbury conspiracy, I guess is what I'm saying. It was fun to dig into. I didn't really throw it on here, but there was a Salisbury.
But Salisbury was...
He kept things close to his chest, and they don't know if it's because he was corrupt and in on it, or hedging his bets, or what his reasoning was.
Right, but he was like Littlefinger. He valued information.
Ooh, oh my God, I bet he was.
Yeah, we've always got to get our Game of Thrones reference in somewhere.
Okay, so this dude, Monteagle, he has a servant, and this servant is friends with, the Wright brothers and with Robert Catesby, and he knows these people, and he sends a letter to them and says, dude, this Monteagle guy just got a letter. Someone betrayed you. Okay? Catesby. So he was actually...
Okay.
Yeah, Robert Catesby was supposed to go hunting with the king, and he immediately thinks that Tresham did it.
Obviously, it may... Okay.
So, he sends, because he's supposed to go hunting with the king, so he can't do anything about it right now. He has obligations that he can't shirk at this moment. So he sends Thomas Winter, the other guy, to go and grab Tresham. Okay? It's a lot. Tresham's like, I didn't do it. I swear I didn't send the letter. But then he followed up with, but you know what? I really think it would be a good idea if you guys just stopped. If you walked away right now before things went too far, before people got hurt. So there was a big...
did Tresham, did he maybe tell his wife? I don't know.
That's funny.
Like, there are questions, like, maybe it wasn't Tresham. Maybe Tresham. I think Tresham has some loose lips. If it wasn't him.
We don't know.
Anyways.
But there's this underlying current with some of these conspirators because they were concerned because with the blowing up of Parliament, explosions are such a discriminant weapon that innocent people are going to get caught up in this. The merchants and the people outside and the people that were Catholic supporters on Parliament. Everyone is just going to die indiscriminately. And there were some that did have an issue with that, but they thought that for the greater good, and we're going to push through, we need to kill the king and all of the supporters. And this is the best way at the time.
I get Tresham's stance, and I agree. It's like that pesky property damage situation, like in the Avengers, is people are going to get harmed, and
Casualties.
Then you are then creating enemies of your supporters, and that is...
Exactly. You're going to martyr the king as well, and all of his supporters and Protestant supporters. Like, this could have a lot of different consequences that you don't even think of.
Exactly. And I don't know if they're going to take very kindly to the people that have kidnapped Elizabeth.
I know. They're going to be so mad that they're going to retaliate by killing every single Catholic around them.
Absolutely.
So, I don't know. I don't know where they were going, but this is the plot.
It sounded like a fever dream, and Tresham is attempting to be like, let's come back. Come on, guys. Come back, Sarah. Don't go that way. That way will take you right to the castle. It's like...
Should have gone that way.
Should have gone that way.
But they didn't.
But they didn't. Nobody listens to Tresham. All right.
They don't. Okay, we are now at Friday, November 1st, leading up to Tuesday, November 5th.
Alrighty.
Okay. All right, so finally, on November 1st, the letter is shown to the king. He is back in London. He's done hunting. He reads it, and he immediately seizes upon that word blow. He has a very personal impact of this because his daddy, Lord Darnley, he was the Kirkfield. He was a big guy. He married Mary Queen of Scots, but he was blown up during a skirmish in Scotland when James was just one. So James kind of has this sensitivity towards plots of fire and powder,
I could appreciate that, James.
He's a little sensitive towards that. So now he's up in airs, right? Saturday, November 2nd. Members of the Privy Council, they visit with the king at Whitehall, and they're informed, based on the information that Salisbury had given them a week earlier. So they plot this plan that on Monday, because it's Saturday right now, it's a weekend, on Monday, they are going to start a search of the House of Parliament above and below. Oh. We're not going to do it now on Saturday or Sunday. We're going to go do whatever we do. And on Monday, we're going to start a search. Sunday, November 3rd. Percy, Robert, Winter, they have a final meeting. Percy tells his colleagues that they should all abide the uttermost trial. Basically, this is stay the course. All right, this is when most men fail. We're almost to the finish line, guys. Right. We got this.
Let's keep on with this crazy ass plan.
Because you know what they're hearing? They know that James has this letter. They know that this shit's going to get searched on Monday. They know these things are going to happen because some of them are on the Privy Council. And one of them, was it Percy or whatever, is part of the bodyguard. And they've been warned that the letter was even written.
Okay. So they have all of this insider information. They know that they're...
discovered.
Yes.
Kind of.
Not them.
The
not
plot.
The plot.
Maybe. Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're starting to freak out, but they're like, nope, we got this. Stay the course.
Yeah. We are on the inside.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Monday, November 4th. One of their dudes, Digby, and they have this hunting party. They're staged in the Midlands, right? They're ready. They're near Elizabeth. They're ready to abduct her. They're gonna do this tomorrow.
Okay.
Laying the groundwork. People are surrounding Elizabeth.
People are surrounding Elizabeth, and they are ready to
attack. When
abduct.
When it comes time,
we're gonna steal this kid.
Yeah. All right. And so they begin the first search of the buildings in and around Parliament. This led them to a large pile of firewood in the storage unit directly beneath the House of Lords, accompanied by what they presumed to be a serving man, a man named John Johnson, who told them that the firewood belonged to his master, Thomas Percy. They wrote down their reportings and left, at which time Fawkes also left the building. But the mention of Percy's name, because him and others were involved in previous treasons with the previous authorities, aroused their suspicion, and he's already known as a Catholic agitator. The king insists that a more thorough search be undertaken, so they go back late that night and they begin to search around Percy's storage unit. For some reason, after hours, they again found this dude, Fawkes, John Johnson.
Okay.
All right. Dressed in a cloak and a hat and wearing boots and spurs.
Oh, that's specific.
When he was arrested, again, he gave his name as John Johnson.
Right.
On his person, he was carrying a lantern, a pocket watch, several slow matches, and touchwood, things that you would use to light a fire. Right? That's the things that they would use.
Absolutely.
Next to him, they discovered 36 barrels of gunpowder under piles of wood and coal. He is caught red-handed with matches in his pocket next to 36 barrels. Going, what gunpowder?
What do you mean?
So this is late Monday night.
And spurs.
His cloak and hat. So very, very early in the morning on Tuesday, November 5th, Fawkes is taken to the king. News of the discovery begins to immediately circulate about London. All right. The conspirators begin to flee. They start to go north towards the Midlands, where they're still going to try to kidnap the princess. They're like, okay, the explosion failed. Part 1, stage 1 failed, but we're going to try to keep up with part 2. Okay. The look on her face.
What?
I don't know.
I guess. Just steal his kid?
Yeah.
What? All right. I mean, these guys.
Okay, so immediately the city goes on lockdown. Extra guards get stationed at the city gates. They shut down the ports. The Spanish ambassador and their embassy there, they get surrounded by an angry mob because they are known Catholic supporters. And so they start attacking the Spanish, and so they have to have extra soldiers put up. And then they issue arrest warrants against like people that have names they know, like Percy, and then that poor Earl of Northumberland is put under arrest. Okay?
Oh, no.
Yeah. John Johnson's initial interrogation, he revealed nothing other than the name of his mother and that he was from Yorkshire. They found on him a letter to Guy Fawkes, all right? But he claimed that this is just one of his aliases. I'm Guy Fawkes. I'm John Johnson. I'm all of these things. Mm-hmm. All right. And far from saying he didn't know what was going on or denying anything, he is saying, heck yeah, man, I am here to destroy King and Parliament. My name is John Johnson, and I'm here to take down Parliament, folks. This is what I'm here for.
He really just sticks to it.
He does.
He's like, fuck this shenanigans. I think this is wrong. If the one thing I can do, if I can't blow you up, then I'm going to say what I got to say.
That's right. That's right.
Way to go, Guy Fawkes.
And he, to the end, you know, up until this point, he's going, I am doing this alone. There are no other conspirators. I am acting alone. You caught me, whatever. Mm-hmm. His unwillingness to yield so impressed the king that he described him as having a Roman resolution.
Ooh, and you know those Romans.
Yeah,
crazy.
Stoic. Yeah. I'm all like, you know, staunch, important, serious, stoic, crazy motherfuckers.
Yeah, they are. Do you not? I mean, the clubbing, Shannon.
The clubbing. You have to stay loyal, and you don't run. You don't run.
Yeah. I mean, that's vibes. Way to go, Guy Fawkes, Guido, John Johnson.
John Johnson.
This man.
We are now Wednesday, November 6th.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So then they appoint this dude, Lord Chief Justice Sir John Popham. Popham?
Popham.
Popham.
Popham. Probably Popham.
He already comes to the table with a deep-seated hatred of Catholics.
Ooh.
So he immediately begins to interrogating, by any means necessary, the poor servants of these people that are being arrested. All right? The servants.
Oh, dude. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so by evening of Wednesday, November 6th, he has a very long list of names. He has Robert Catesby, he has this dude Rookwood, Keyes, of course Winter, John, and then his brother Christopher Wright, this dude Grant, John Johnson, of course. He is persisting with his story in jail and saying, you know, I'm doing this alone. And he is then moved to the Tower of London, where the king has decided that poor Mr. Johnson needs to be tortured.
That's really messed up. Whenever we switch to like bribing people with money for information, like that was a good choice.
Better form of barter system.
You know? There's some better options there, people.
So,
okay.
At this point, the use of torture is illegal, except by royal prerogative. Which James had the prerogative to torture Mr. John Johnson.
Yeah.
All right. So in a letter on November 6th, James wrote, "The gentler tortures are to be first used unto him, and thus by steps extending to the bottom depths."
Whoa. He sounded like he was pissed off.
Yeah. So Johnson most likely was placed in manacles and hung from the wall. We talked about the strappado, so how you are hung, even if it's just above your head, that it's excessively painful after long periods of time. But with your arms behind your back, that's really rough. And then he was reportedly subjected to the rack as well. That is a recorded thing. At this point, the other conspirators, they're going around the countryside. They're trying to rouse support. They're knocking on doors of people that they know and going to taverns and stuff around these villages. And everyone is like, nope, you got the dark mark on you, bro. I can't.
For real.
Anyone associated with these men or touched by these men are instantly tainted with treason by the king.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So even their own family members are like, no, I'm sorry. I can't harbor you. I can't support you. I can't give you water for your horses. You need to go. So they decide that they need to hole up and they need to regroup and they need to see what's going on here. All right.
Right.
So it's November. Here where we live in November, it's cold and it's wet. It is in England as well. So these poor guys, they're exhausted. They're wet. They're dragging along whatever they could take of their resources and stuff, like their gunpowder. So they go to this guy's house where they're holing up and they're laying everything out, and they think that the best course of action is to take their wet gunpowder and spread it out in front of the fireplaces to dry out. And then, like, sit on the couches around the fireplace. And, like, I don't know, sip sherry and smoke cigars or eat quail. I don't know. All right, so this...
But really?
Yeah.
Like...
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
God. Okay.
Oddly enough, this random spark, it gets loose. It sets the whole lot on fire. It's crazy. And boom. All right, so these flames engulf these men, Robert and all these dudes, the Rookwood guy, Grant, this guy named Morgan, other people that are in this hunting party, you know. So a messenger runs. They were like, oh God, it's like the front of the house explodes. And so this dude is running from the house to go get a doctor and stuff. And he runs into Winter along the road, who is meeting up with them, right? He's meeting, and he's like, oh my God, they all exploded.
Okay.
Right? So he's telling Winter.
They all exploded.
Yes. So he runs into Winter and this group of men who are wet and tired and exhausted and running from their lives. And the messenger says they've all exploded. All hope is lost. And so most of these men, they're like, we're done. And they leave. And they leave Winter to trudge alone in the mud and the rain up to the exploded house to see what remains of his co-conspirators.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So what he finds is that Robert is alive, but he's scorched a bit. He's got burns all over him. John Grant was not so lucky. He was blinded by the fire. Most everyone else just had some minor burns and stuff. So they all hunker down and they stay in the house, and basically they wait for the King's men. They know that they're coming. Everyone knows that they're coming, and they are awaiting their fate. And I think preparing for their last stand. It's very Alamo.
Super fun. And they're half burned down.
I don't know the extent of damage. I mean, is this the molded gunpowder?
These guys are given frat boy vibes. Okay, and again, they're running around in heeled shoes and tights and capes.
Plumed hats. Dithers, Winter. They exploded
in their half burned down house.
And they're getting accused and tortured by people named Popham. And I'm sure that in real life, if we were to meet these men, they would be terrifying and they would kill us.
Probably. But perspective from 2024 is that's ridiculous. Sir.
They could still take probably most of us in a fight.
Their little heeled shoes.
For real. Okay, so Thursday, November 7th. Fox's resolve was broken. He has now been tortured for a little bit. He confesses late that day, and they force him to confess over and over again over the next few days. Mm-hmm. Friday, November 8th. Early in the morning, Richard Walsh, the sheriff of Worcestershire. It's such a fun name. The sheriff of Worcestershire and his company of 200 men finally find the men in their manor house in the country, burned and singed. Worcestershire and 200 dudes.
He sounds like a character from Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Right. All right. So these poor 200 men, or these 200 men fall upon these poor, handful, dude. Just a handful of
half burnt,
tired,
exhausted men.
Yeah.
That's so sad. 200.
Yeah. All right. So imagine the barrage of bullets as they begin to fire. Okay. Thomas Winter was crossing the courtyard and he was hit in the shoulder.
Oh.
John Wright was shot dead, followed very soon after by his brother, who was shot dead, and then the guy Rookwood. Robert Catesby and Percy were reportedly killed by a single lucky shot. Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know. The attackers immediately rushed the property, stripped all of the dead of their clothing and their possessions immediately. I have no idea why. This dude Morgan, and Rookwood, and then Winter were arrested.
Well, I wonder if it's because, like, honestly, when you look at their history, like, these are, like, competent men. They all seem like they come from, like, a little bit of money. They're people of
means,
mm-hmm. And I could imagine that maybe they wanted them to be these ragamuffin conspirators,
mm-hmm.
And clothes definitely defined your station.
Oh, you're right.
So potentially.
Immediately demeaning them, humiliating them.
Oh, for sure.
Oh my gosh, and it's November and it's wet and rainy and muddy and now you have no shoes and pants and you're tromping around.
Now they're dead and naked.
Yep. All of the homes of all of the conspirators are searched. They're looted. The women are treated roughly. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? There were only 2 confessions that are ever printed in full. One is Guy Fawkes' confession of November 8th. And if you look it up, which you can, we've discussed it a number of times, there's an example of his signature of before being tortured and after being tortured, and you can see evidence of the extreme damage and trauma done to his poor body in the evidence of his signature of just a couple days.
For reals.
Yeah.
That man went through it.
Yeah. So the other confession that was ended up being Winter's. And this is actually from November 23rd. So he was in jail for quite a while and was able to be tortured for a while. And since he was involved from the conspiracy from the very, very beginning, unlike Fawkes, who kind of came along towards the beginning, Winter had a lot of extremely valuable information. And the funny thing about it is if you were to look at the handwriting in his testimony, you can tell that it is certainly made of the man, but his signature in some areas is very different. So, Winter, the way that it is spelled, I know you guys can't really see it, but it's a British Winter, and it's Wintour, Wintour. And when it is on these documents, it's spelled winter, like the season, Winter. So they say that is a little suspicious.
Yeah, that maybe it wasn't.
And they're like, well, he was shot in the shoulder, so maybe he misspelled his own name because his shoulder was hurting?
I don't know about that.
That's one of them. Maybe it was written by somebody else.
Weird.
Oh, no one knows. Mystery. So those are the only 2 confessions, and one is a very blatant example of what torture can do to you, and the other one is almost another blatant example of government tampering and corruption.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so that poor guy, the Earl of Northumberland, that Percy used to work for, everyone suspected him and thought that he was in on it the whole time, even though there was insufficient evidence to convict him. They still arrested him. He remained in the Tower until June of 1606 and was finally charged with contempt. He was stripped of all of his public offices. He was fined £30,000, which is about £8.3 million.
Cool.
And then he was kept in the Tower until June of 1621. So he was just imprisoned for he never did anything. Poor guy. I always felt bad for him. Poor Northumberland.
Right?
Yeah. Okay. So Tresham, right? The guy that supposedly betrayed them all. December 1606. His health begins to deteriorate while he's a prisoner in the tower.
Okay.
He begins to be visited regularly by his wife, his nurse, and his servants. Nowhere in his final confessions did he ever admit to writing the letter. All right? He never admitted to writing the letter. We still don't know who sent the letter. It is still a mystery. This poor guy goes down to history as being the narc, and he says he never did it. He died early on the morning of December 23rd and was buried in the tower. Nevertheless, his remains were still displayed along with the plotters for a while, and his head was set on a spike.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and of course, his estates were confiscated. Don't forget that.
I guess that's what you get.
Yeah. Of the numerous conspirators, only 3 were able to escape the country and live out their lives. All of the others were hunted down and arrested.
That's insane.
Yeah. So Robert Catesby and Percy, even though they escaped the executioner being killed during that, fun party with the fires, they exhumed their bodies and they decapitated them. And they put their heads on spikes and exhibited them outside the House of Lords.
Oh my goodness. They dug up their bodies so they could cut off their heads and spike them. That's some petty bullshit. But all right.
You do not piss off the king. So most of the conspirators were executed on January 30th of 1607. So this would be Digby, one of the guys that was going to go kidnap the princess. Of course, Winter, the guy Grant, a couple other guys. And they were dragged through crowded streets with their friends and confidants throwing things at them and yelling at them. They'd been tortured and in prison for months. And then they mounted the scaffold. They were all sentenced to die by hang, drawn, and quartering. So a bunch of those guys were executed January 30th, and then another group was executed on January 31st. One of those was Guy Fawkes, as we know. And all of these were executed opposite the building they had planned to blow up. Kind of like as a final FU.
Right.
One of the guys, Keyes, he did not wait for the hangman's command, and he jumped from the gallows, but he survived the drop, and he was led to the quartering block.
Oh, man, you tried.
But as we all know, Guy Fawkes did also jump from the gallows, but he was able to break his neck, and thus he was spared the agony and the gruesome execution. I mean, they still cut his body up, but he wasn't alive.
He wasn't alive to deal with the process.
Pain. Yeah. So just some fun little facts that have led from the infamous Gunpowder Plot of November 5th. Ever after, they always considered it very prudent to search the cellars on the day before each of the state openings of Parliament. This is a ritual that survives to this day. Just in case.
I mean, makes sense. Yeah. Fool me once.
Yeah.
Shame on you. Fool me twice. Shame on me. I guess. That's fun.
Okay. So, in January of 1606, during the very first sitting of the Parliament since the plot, they implemented a mandatory observance of November 5th. Okay. This is an annual public Thanksgiving for the failure of the plot. It was required all church ministers were to hold a special Thanksgiving service every November 5th, during which the text of this very specific and very long act was read out loud. Everybody was required to attend, and you had to remain orderly throughout the service. But they really didn't have very many penalties if you didn't do it, so I don't know. Every minister was required to give a warning to his parishioners publicly in the church on the Sunday before November 5th. Okay, so they had to do this every year until 1859. So that lasted 250 years. They had to do this every year.
That's a long time.
And since it lasted for so long, it started traditions. So they began to ring the church bells to get everyone, let them know that they had to go. Mm-hmm. Bonfires started showing up, fireworks were included in some of the earliest celebrations. So lots of fun things started happening when you get lots of people together. So in Britain, November 5th is called either bonfire night, fireworks night, or Guy Fawkes night. November 5th firework displays and bonfire parties are very common throughout Britain. Normally in the weeks coming up to the 5th, children made guys. These are like little effigies, little dolls that were supposed to be like Guy Fawkes, and they just called them little guys. Yeah, little baby wickermen made out of like straw and old clothes and stuffed with newspaper and stuff. And then they would burn them on the bonfires. Like Guy Fawkes. Nice. Yeah. And then the guys were sold to collect money for like the fireworks and stuff. They don't do it as much, but in the 19th century, the word guy came to mean an oddly dressed person. And then now in the 21st century, we use it just to mean any male person, like a guy. Ironically, pre-revolutionary American colonies, all right, we were very British back then, and we had Guy Fawkes Day, except we called it Pope's Night. It took on very anti-establishment overtones and became so dangerous that many wouldn't even venture outside of their homes. What? So Guy Fawkes Day had to be taken away from America because we got too naughty.
Seriously, we cannot have nice things.
We can't.
We fuck it up all the time, guys. We really do.
All right, last fun fact about the Gunpowder Plot. Here we go. So in 2005, there was this British TV program called The Gunpowder Plot, Exploding the Legend. And they actually created this really cool full-size replica of the House of Lords, and then they just destroyed it with barrels of gunpowder.
Yeah!
It was a total of 1 ton of explosives. Okay, so the experiment was conducted in a test site, and it demonstrated that the explosion, if the gunpowder had been in good order, would have killed all of those in the building. All right, so it did prove that there was a lot of gunpowder.
I love it. For science!
For science! Okay, the explosion was so great that these walls, they were 7-foot deep concrete where that storage unit, because it was underneath in the original buildings of this, so there were big stone walls where the gunpowder was stored, okay, right underneath the throne. And in the replica, they were completely reduced to rubble.
Oh, wow.
In fact, in the replica, they took this dummy and they put it on the throne to represent where King James would have been sitting if it had exploded, right? So it was found, the head of this dummy was found a considerable distance from its initial location.
Okay, so only if King James could know.
Your head flew, buddy.
That far out into the future.
We're still watching your head blow off in effigy.
You were involved in an experiment, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so according to the findings of this experiment, no one within 330 feet of the blast would have survived.
Wow.
All of the stained glass windows in Westminster Abbey would have shattered from the blowback. The explosion would have been seen from miles away and heard from even more. Even if only half of the gunpowder had gone off, which Fawkes had apparently prepared for, everyone in the House of Lords would have been killed instantly. The program also disproved claims that there was a deteriorated quality of the gunpowder, which would have had a much smaller explosion, they deliberately put a portion of deteriorated gunpowder in, and it was of such a low quality that it was like unusable in firearms. So they put a really crappy gunpowder in there, and it still exploded. It still contributed. It was still huge. Calculations show that Fox, who was skilled in the use of gunpowder back then, as skilled as you could be back then, really had used an excessive amount of gunpowder for the job that needed to be done. He was
planning for failure.
A little much, yeah. He went a little much.
So had they succeeded,
a lot of people would have died.
Do you think that we would have a Guy Fawkes Day still?
Gosh, it's so hard to tell. We discussed some of the thoughts of the blowback that might have happened, the persecution against Catholics, and how long would they really have held the throne before it would have been taken back again? And was his torture and capture inevitable? It's really hard to say.
Yeah.
You know, which way the wind would blow.
I get why there is a Guy Fawkes Day with how it all went down.
But
I
get
why.
And I apologize for any British listeners out there. We are American. We are ignorant. We are doing the best that we can to learn about our past and our shared experiences as human beings. And from what I understand, you celebrate Guy Fawkes not because he did succeed, but because the man kept him down and caught him, and it didn't succeed. Like, it's like you're celebrating the continued establishment. Are you really celebrating the fact that the plot failed? That's what that whole 250 years that they had to show up every year in church and listen to the awesome ways that this plot failed. That is why they celebrate Guy Fawkes Day, for the failed plot.
It's very complicated.
What do you do? Do you just have bonfires? Like, do you have special foods? What are we supposed to be doing? As Americans, I think we always involve food with our parties. So what kind of food do you have at your Guy Fawkes party? What I think is interesting and amusing, from an outsider's perspective, that's all we have here.
For sure.
At Histories Uncharted, is that it's Guy Fawkes Day and not Robert Catesby Day, because he is the leader, he is the starter of this, he is the martyr that died in the last stand at the last battle at the house. He even exploded with his gunpowder for it, and no one says his name. Maybe you do in Britain. Maybe it's not just Guy Fawkes, but whenever we hear, like, I didn't.
Yeah, maybe it's a
Robert
synonymous.
Catesby, Winter, John Winter. These people are not names.
But it's funny that it's the guy who got caught with the matches in his pocket.
Yeah,
who was gonna do the deed. I mean, that kind of makes sense to me too. Is that he really was?
I don't know. He was brought in at the end. He was a fall guy. He made it through some torturing, stood up for himself. I don't know. It's all just very interesting.
It's wild and out. It's a fun story, though.
It is.
It literally, and I just want to see this be a movie.
By Guy Ritchie. Guy Ritchie needs to do Guy Fawkes. It is. It's just all of these opportunities for them to stop and turn back. Hiccups and hurdles over and over again. Stuck with Scottish soldiers and deteriorated gunpowder and the letter. Yeah. Would you have turned back at the letter? Would you? If you knew the king knew you were coming, would you still go?
And they were going to be searching. I mean, if I had a guy that was like involved in the searching, like if whoever was on the councils or whatever was like actually going to be involved in the searching, and they could like thwart the room or say, I have searched this room, you know, if it was like this.
No, they found out it was Percy's room, and that's the one they went to go double check. And then Fox had went back, so he got out the first time. He went back. If he hadn't gone back, he wouldn't have been caught. They would have just found all of the gunpowder, and they never really known who was involved except for Percy, because that's the name on the deed. They know this John Johnson and the Percy. So I don't know.
He was committed. He was like, this is happening.
He went back. Yeah, they did it. They stayed the course. Lots of opportunities to turn back.
Absolutely. A lot of opportunities. What an enjoyable story, though. I really loved to learn the history. I loved to learn the context of the time and to really understand. It makes me understand Guy Fawkes, I think, just a little bit better.
I enjoyed the shoes and the capes and the beard game and the amazing idea of laying out your gunpowder to dry in front of a fireplace. That right there, that's what won the story for me.
Yeah. That's some dumb ways to die right there, dude.
No, it's fine. Just lay it out in front of the fire. It'll dry. It'll be fine.
Good.
That's amazing. Well, we really did enjoy ourselves with this epic rendition and learning about the Gunpowder Plot, and we hope that you enjoyed it as well. And we hope that you come back for more fascinating stories of our past. And thank you so much for joining us, and have a good day. Bye.
Bye.